What's up, friends? My name is Miranda, and in this video I wanted to talk about something that's pretty personal to me, Raynaud's disease. Hopefully I can give you some tips if that's something that you also deal with, and if you don't, and you just happen to have fingers and toes that get really cold, this video will still be helpful for you because I'll give you all of the gear tips that I have learned over the years for keeping my fingers and toes warm. Professional! This is my show, gosh darn. So I'm here in my local park. Oh no. Sorry. And I wanted to talk to you about Raynaud's disease and how I deal with that. So really quick, what is Raynaud's? Raynaud's can affect your fingers or your toes or both, which is my case. And Raynaud's is characterized by the arteries in your fingers or toes being restricted and constricting the blood flow to your skin, which causes your fingers to go completely white, sometimes followed by like blue or purple before turning bright red as the blood starts to rush back into your hands. Raynaud's varies in how severe it is. So you could have a very mild form of Raynaud's, or you could have a really severe form of Raynaud's. You could have like all of your fingers turning white, one finger turning white, just your toes. It sucks. I'm not gonna lie. It is super common, but it's also really annoying. And I feel like just because it is something that's common doesn't mean that it's not like a factor in how those of us who deal with this, or even just like deal with bad circulation, recreate in the outdoors in cold temperatures. And when I say cold temperatures, I don't necessarily just mean like the winter time. Sometimes with Raynaud's, the shoulder seasons, like the fall and the spring, where there are rapid changes in temperature, can be the worst. Like it could be a 60-degree day, and then I could like step into the shade, and all of a sudden my hands are gonna go totally numb. This does make the winter and like recreating in the winter time the most challenging season for me. In my case, there is a hereditary component. My mom also has Raynaud's. Raynaud's can also be caused or triggered by some kind of trauma to your fingers and toes, which is what happened to me in 2016. I had just moved to the Pacific Northwest from the East Coast, and when I moved here, I decided I wanted to try and climb Mount Rainier with my partner, Sky. But when it came time for the summit attempt, we unfortunately got stuck in a whiteout and a blizzard. And in that time, while we were traversing the Muir snowfield, I many times took off my gloves and like set them down in the snow. And this was kind of a new experience for me, and I just wasn't thinking. My liner gloves ended up getting soaked through, and then I put them back into my gloves. And by the time we got up to Camp Muir, it was dark outside, and I took my gloves off to help set up the tent, and my hands were completely white from basically like the middle of my palm up to my fingertips, and I couldn't feel anything. Later, after talking to my doctor, we determined that probably what I had was just like a very, very minor case of frost nip or frostbite. Nothing super severe by any means, but enough that it did some damage to the arteries and the nerves in my fingers. After that like trauma to my hands, sometimes my hands would go so cold just like walking from my apartment to my car that I wouldn't be able to buckle my seatbelt until I warmed my hands up again. When I found out how common this was, and when I realized what it was and like talked to my doctor about it, I felt some comfort in knowing that this was something that lots of people deal with, and it's not life-threatening. Because I'm not a doctor, so this isn't WebMD, and even that's not a doctor, so. But even if you don't deal with Raynaud's syndrome, you might just deal with having bad circulation or with your hands and your toes getting really, really cold in the wintertime. So I thought I would just share with you all a couple of the tips and things that I have found that work really well for keeping my fingers and my toes warm. So let's start with hands. First of all, obviously wearing a liner glove is a very, very helpful thing. I try and wear these whenever I leave the house, although it is hard for me, and sometimes I'll end up just like pulling them off. But with that, what I learned was that if I'm going to take my liner gloves or any of my gloves off, never put them on the ground. When I take these off, I'll put them directly into my pockets, or if I'm wearing a jacket that has like interior pockets, I'll tuck them in there, or even I'll like put them in my armpits to keep them warm. Looks cool. On their own, these are not generally enough if I'm just like sitting still. Like even right now, my hands are starting to get cold. For temperatures where I just need something that is gonna give me a lot more dexterity and still be, dare I say, stylish. These are a insulated glove that have like a kind of fleecy liner on the inside. And so I will actually use these with my liner gloves. I mean, really, if I want a glove that I can wear just like out, not that I like go out all the time, but like I'm going dancing. Man, yeah, wear these gloves and my fanny pack. I am the belle of the ball. And then I recently got these like much larger insulated mittens that are probably like designed for people doing like mountaineering. you know, like attempting to summit Rainier, which maybe I'll do again. We'll see. But yeah, these are really great. And they do have like a lobster claw liner on the inside. Hello. Benefit of this is that you still have all of your fingers, or like you still have 3 of your 4 main fingers that stick together. If you don't know already, gloves, more dexterity, mittens, better. This is confusing because I'm wearing gloves. Just Photoshop a mitten on this hand with a check mark, a little plus sign. Basically, the goal for me is to have my hands never be exposed to cold. So these are my liner gloves that I've been wearing for the entire video. I think having a good liner glove to work in conjunction with your mittens or whatever else you have is a very important way to stay warm. Another tip that I thought was really important was to always have a backup pair of gloves, something that you can use just in case you lose a mitten or a glove, or if they get wet and like aren't able to dry out. So that might look different depending on like what activity you're doing, but for me, I've actually found that carrying like a really big wool glove like these has been super helpful. So these are like what I would call my like camp mittens, just something that allows me to like quickly put my hands into a warm, cozy spot and get them warm quickly. So that's my system for keeping my fingers warm, but I also have RAYNAUD'S on my toes, and so I want to show you what I use to keep my feet warm. Yeah, buddy. So these are my insulated hiking boots. These are great, and they've made a huge difference for like me being able to do hikes in the wintertime, but they weren't warm enough on their hair. They weren't warm enough on their own, so I did actually recently get these insulated insoles from Yak Trax. These just go into my already insulated boot, and then obviously I wear a pretty good sock, like these farm to feet socks. Another hair. Sorry guys, I have long hair. It's just how it is. Cool, yeah. If you haven't used these already, these disposable foot warmers and toe warmers are great. I honestly don't love using these because it's just a lot of trash and a lot of waste, but that's no reason not to have them on hand. These are like my just in case my feet or my toes go completely numb and I'm like really uncomfortable. So definitely think that having something like this is good. I will say that I have not perfected my system of gloves and like footwear, but there are some tips that I've learned over the years that I think are really helpful, regardless of whether or not you have RAYNAUD'S or another condition that causes your hands to get cold. So if you are someone who just like gets cold, I'm hoping that this information can help you, coming from someone who has to deal with it in like an extreme way. So a couple things. The first one, like I mentioned before, is ensuring that you don't ever have any skin exposed to the air. For my hands, it means trying to always keep a liner glove on. Obviously, same thing with your feet, having some kind of insulation. And as much as possible, not allowing for your gloves or your mittens to get wet. So that means having a backup pair if needed, or storing them in your armpits or in your jacket pockets and never like putting them down on the ground. Another really cool tip that I found is really helpful, and that I know for a fact a couple like pro climbers do, are arm circles. So anything where you're like swinging your arms around, or even like holding your arms out and creating circles like this, even shrugging your shoulders, anything like that is going to help promote blood flow through your arms and into your fingertips, which is again going to keep your hands warm. It also like brings up your core body temperature, which is also very helpful for RAYNAUD'S or for any kind of circulation problems. Another really important tip that I have found especially helpful for climbing is warming my hands slowly. So you want to avoid using hot water to warm your hands really quickly. Don't run them under hot water. Don't stick your feet in hot bathtubs. Don't do it. Do not put them in hot water. Don't do it. This can cause another condition that I think is called chilblains. But basically what will happen is that your hands get warm really fast. Your fingers can swell and become really itchy and really uncomfortable. It sucks. It's happened to my feet before. It's like just bad. So avoid using hot water to warm your hands too fast. Don't do it. Putting your hands on the back of your neck or even in your armpits looks cool. That's a really great way to get your fingers warm in like a slow way and like using your body heat to help with that. So even if you don't have Raynaud's disease, but you just deal with your fingers and toes getting really cold, I'm hoping that this has given you some good tips for how to manage that and hopefully stay warm. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you all in the wild. Stay warm, friends. Bye. I've got like one bony butt cheek. Just one bony one. The other one's okay. The other one's like well padded. This one's bony.